Hello everyone, this is Melanie B from Melanie B's Creative Studio and Melanie B's Creative Supplies, and I am so excited to be here, and Happy New Year 2023. I'm so excited to bring to you guys a new company. Now, when I say a new company, I do not mean they're brand new, they just opened their shop last week or anything like that. What I mean is they're a new company to me and to a lot of you. And I am so proud to introduce them to you because they are from my home state of South Carolina. So the name of the company is right here on the front. It's called Sea Island Creations. And I know a lot of you are going to want to just skip to the good part where I open this and I reveal the contents. It's very important for me to give you a little bit of the foundation of the company because some of you are looking for companies like this when you're purchasing your paint by number kits. And so this one checks all those boxes. And let me go ahead and give you that rundown. First of all, this is a US based company. They're located on the coast in Edisto Beach of South Carolina. When I first saw the mention of these on my Facebook group, I had just gotten home from a vacation to Hilton Head, which is one of the Sea Islands. And then I was about to leave to go to Isle of Palms, which is another one of the Sea Islands. Of course, it caught my attention and I immediately went to look. Their kits were unique and I was thrilled to see that it was a family-owned business in the US, husband and wife team. Kent and Candace are the owners of the company. Candace actually is the artist behind all the pieces that you see on the website. They used to own a restaurant business, and a couple of years ago, they were like, hey, let's just do this whole pay by number thing. So I reached out to them and asked if they'd be interested in a collaboration with me. And Candace responded and said, I was the person who inspired her and her husband to open their business, which was huge to me. So I asked her, had she always lived in the lower part of the state near the coast? And she was like, no, we used to live in a certain town. And I said, that's my town. What was the road that you lived on? And she actually used to live about 3 miles from me. So when you talk about it is a small world, the world is about this big. That was just a very unique experience. And, sometimes you just feel compelled to reach out to people. You know how God works and puts people in your life for a reason. And that was kind of one of these things. So anyway, she sent me this one. I have not opened this one. I have not swatched the paints. I haven't looked at it, nothing. But first of all, let me say this. They offer free shipping in the contiguous United States. I thought that was incredible. Shipping is so expensive, you guys. I can ship the tiniest package and it will be $5 freaking before you even add a bubble mailer. So it's incredible that they're shipping this big package free. They personally respond to emails, she or her husband. So I was looking at their About Us and I read all this information and I was just like, now that is customer service. For those of you who are looking for the companies that offer personal service, are family owned, they are putting their heart and souls into these businesses. Those are the ones I want to give my money to. Those are the ones I want to support. And that's what this company is. So without further ado, let's get in this box because I know these lights are bouncing like crazy off this beautiful shiny packaging. So let's just go ahead and do that. So right out of the gate, you can tell these are put together by them. Like you can see, they have done this work themselves. I'm not even showing you the canvas yet, okay? Look away. Don't be jumping ahead. You know you did that crap in school sometimes. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let's take one thing at a time. Reference guide is included. Yay. Candace listened to me. I think she listened to my videos. I really do. Look, your contents are in a zippered mesh bag. How amazing is this for storing your parts? Candace, Kent, genius. Love this. Okay, let's get in. Y'all know how I do. It's been so long since I've done a video. I'm so excited. Look at the brushes. Look at the brushes. I mean, don't look at the brushes. I got my own brushes. I'm just kidding. Yay, great brushes included. Okay. Woo, God. I can't even tell you the price of her kits. Whatever she's charging is worth it. Just gonna tell you. You guys. Y'all. Look, that's worth the price of admission right there. Beautiful little mesh bag. All right. Magnifier. Hello, y'all thoughtful people. Photo reference. I do believe this is a sticker. I think it's a sticker. You can tell by the texture. Now, if it's not, I'm going to be pulling this picture layer apart. Y'all look. Okay. All right. So why does that matter? Little things get me super excited. So I could either put this on my mesh bag. I can put this on my box somewhere, depending on how I'm going to store my kit. I love the fact that my photo reference is a sticker, a label. Genius. Love it. So this is the image. Oh, by the way, hello. This is the image. Isn't it fabulous? Y'all, I was never even a bird person until I started doing macaws and parrots and these tropical looking things. And I'm like, all right. So I'm going to put a little bit larger image here. Isn't it fabulous? Let me take a look at the brushes. We're going to use our magnifier to do it. I'm just teasing. I'm telling you, she was watching my bids. Now I know she was telling me the truth because she heard me say, they put those cheap blue brushes in the kits. They need to put reference guides and really nice looking little set of brushes. Nice job. Here are the paints. Haven't swatched these paints, but hello, beautiful. And we're going to open them up in a minute and look a little bit closer. But they're in a bag, which is nice because first of all, if they spilled, they don't get on everything in your kit. It also keeps air from getting into the paint pots, which will make them last longer. So this palette has more than 24 paints. So I'm going to move all this other stuff out of the way. I don't know if you can tell, so I'm going to lift this up and let you look a little bit closer. Let's look at it from the side. This is a canvas panel, not a board with paper on top. It is wrapped with canvas. Why is that awesome? Because it has a canvas surface that is just like what you're used to painting on. The beauty of this is once you paint this, this can be put up on an easel, left alone, or you can frame it in a regular frame. They have already prepped this canvas with something. I know most canvases come pre-primed with a white gesso, but this feels like it's almost already feeling like it's got a clear gesso. If I don't have to prep it, I'm not gonna prep it. Now, the reason I normally prep it, people are like, but that company told me it's pre-primed. Well, it's pre-primed with white gesso. Good companies use good canvases. Good canvases come pre-primed with white gesso. White gesso doesn't fix our problem with little white divots. With these, we're putting on thin layers, and that's why we put on the clear gesso, is to fill in all those little divots. And so if I see the little divots, I'll put on a layer of clear gesso. Y'all, for the love of gesso and all that is holy, please watch my 90,000 clear gesso videos. There's so much debate about freaking clear gesso, and it is a personal decision. But I have so much visual proof as to why I use it and why it works. But I don't care if you use it or not. I am not the judge of you. I am not the boss of you. I'm just telling you, I like to do a little prep first and save myself 900,011 hours of time in my life, okay? Now the big question is going to be, does it fit in a standard 16 by 20 frame? That's a good question. And on the front of their box, it says 16 inches by 20 inches. That tells me that yes, it does. These kits are produced in the US. They're not going to be using the metric system. They're going to be using the standard system, which is inches. 16 by 20 is standard here. Our frames are 16 by 20. This is a 16 by 20 piece. Ha! Insert song here. Hallelujah. Okay. I could make the shortest video last 117 years. So before I swatch the paints, I'm gonna lay them out here. We're gonna take a look at them. I'm gonna see how many we have. I'm gonna swatch them. And then I wanna do a little painting on this piece because that is my new rule for the new year. I wanna actually show you how it looks on the canvas without adding anything to our surface. And let's see how that looks, okay? So let's take a quick look at this gorgeous palette of 30 unique paints. They have included not just the 30, but also these duplicates here. Say it with me. Yummy, delicious, tropical palette. Hello. I mean, does this palette suit me or what? These three are my faves. And then next would be these greens. And okay, that periwinkle. All right. So I will go swatch the paints. I'm going to be using the printable canvas that I've talked about in the past with the Melanie B's digital swatch guide that is available at my website, and also my custom size 2 flat brush. I will be adding the links for these items for you in the description below so that you can find them very easily. I will be right back so we can discuss the consistency of the paints, the opacity, and all of that, see how they're going to cover. So please stay tuned. As you can see, the paints are gorgeous when they swatch out. There were no transparent paints in this palette, even considering these yellows and these lime greens, which I expected to be very transparent. They were not. Hallelujah. Candace and Kent nailed it on this kit. Now, you have to consider that I'm testing one kit out of all the ones on their website. So that does not mean that every kit is going to have opaque paints or semi-opaque paints. But what that means is that if they have sent me a palette with potentially transparent paints with these yellows and lime greens, and they aren't transparent, that means they have stroved, I'm just kidding. They have worked extremely hard to make sure that their paints are going to give you the best coverage possible. So my point is that if this palette doesn't have transparent paints, then I feel like you can trust the other palettes and the other kits. Okay, so that is not me saying that on their behalf because I've gotten to know Candace a little bit. I would have said this regardless. They don't pay me. I don't make commissions off of their kits. There is no affiliation other than I learned some personal information about Candace and the background of their company to share with you. Okay, so I like to make sure I say that because my reputation is the most important thing when I bring you a video. The next most important thing that I want to show you is the consistency of the paint, because the texture of this paint was phenomenal. Now consider that this paint has been sitting in a box for, I've lost track of time, probably 5 months because I suck, okay? They sent me this beautiful kit. Time got away from me. Even though it looks thick, right? It is like super creamy. Now, one thing I did promise you was that I was gonna paint a little bit on their canvas just to see how it takes the paint. So because I have this on my stir stick and I refuse to waste this paint, I'm gonna grab my paintbrush, my rinse cup, and my canvas, and I'm gonna use what is on my stir stick and this paint color wherever it needs to go. And I'm gonna paint a little bit of this. So give me a minute to set up and I'll be right back. So like I said, I'm gonna go in here with number 14, which is this gorgeous periwinkle almost blue with the paint that I have on my stir stick. I'm gonna pull it off with the paintbrush, and this is creamy paint, so it's not gonna spill on my canvas, which will panic a lot of people for me to set it here. But if this turns over, I'm not worried about it. This is not a fluid paint, it's a heavy body paint, so we're good. So I've got my custom brushes, a bunch of them in here. I tend to reach for my flat brushes about 90% of the time when I'm painting. So I've got a bunch of those. Those are the blue ones you see. I'm gonna get this paint off here before it dries completely. And there's an opening right here for 14. It looks like a pretty decent size. So I'm gonna get out my 0 flat brush. I love the 0. What you're not gonna see off screen is the 3-in-1 brush cleaning system, my water cup, a couple of the other stainless steel stirring sticks, and I've already got the lid from the 3-in-1 brush cleaning system in that rinse cup. So I'm just going to pull off the paint that hasn't dried already from the stir stick. Normally I would be doing this before it dried, but I don't want to waste that paint. So let's go in and see how this canvas takes this paint, since it's got such a great texture to it. The beauty of a flat brush is that you can get right up along the edges with the straight chisel point. Then you can also pull, and I'm using a 0 because I did have some small areas, and you could use a larger brush like the 2 or the 1. But with this 0, I can get in here in these little tight areas. Now, before I finish, I will point out, this accepts the paint beautifully. And when I say that, I mean, it's not slipping around, and the opacity is great. I'm not having to go over and whatever. The reason I use clear gesso is for 2 reasons. It is to fill in the divots and give me a smooth layer so that I'm not having to fill in the little holes. That's the main priority of the clear gesso when I use it. The second one is it helps with opacity of paints. And so basically I'm not using as much paint, and I don't have to go back and do second coats. I don't have time sometimes to finish the painting the first time for the first layer. So I don't want to go back and do a second layer, if you know what I'm saying. The only time I would use clear gesso in this situation is because I'm having to push my paint down into the little divots, and that's going to require me to use more paint than I want. But this is a beautiful texture. I mean, it's already got a matte texture finish. So it's giving me that Liquitex vibe without the worry of messing up my brushes that a lot of people have. The people who don't use like my brush cleaning system, who aren't protecting their brushes as they work, you know, when they're using the Liquitex. But it's going to require me to really have to push my paint down in there, which means I'm going to use more paint. So I'm going to go in with the 10/0 flat, which is my favorite mini brush. And you can see this one is the white, which means it's from my original set. When you get in here in these little tight spaces, it helps to really be able to define the edges. And I might have to pick paint up more often, but I can definitely work and get in a little more detail. I just turn my brush around to get the paint off. And a lot of times it helps if you hold it very vertically to get it in there. But what also happens when you don't have a surface that's gessoed, you'll notice that you're going outside the line because the little divots in the canvas, those little holes, are making you go into the next area, which is not a big deal. But for those of you who are very particular, it's going to drive you insane. So it will prevent me from doing those things if I add a little clear gesso. So this one is going to be one of those painting kits that it's going to be a pure optional thing for you to add clear gesso if you want to. Their kits are not going to be the ones that I would say you have to gesso this canvas, blah, 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 any of that. I mean, I always say gesso every canvas. Well, I'm going to probably add clear gesso, even though I love the way this feels, just because I don't want to have to add extra paint. I'd rather add a layer of gesso very quickly than to have to use extra paint in my project. So now what I'm going to do for you guys, because I really want to make sure my videos are very thorough, I'm going to add a little bit of clear gesso to a section, and I'm going to look at the difference on how it takes the paint and compare the two. And then you can be the judge of whether you want to add that or not. All right, so what I did is I went ahead and put the Art Basics gesso in this area here, and then I have Liquitex gesso in about this area. I wanted to see if there was a difference and then which one of those gessos was going to work better on this particular canvas, because people have their preferences between those two types as to whether they like the matte finish or the textured toothy finish. So I'm going to try both. I will time lapse this part, just get through it very quickly. So let's get started. After I painted this little small section, I realized that the Art Basics needed a second layer of the clear gesso. So when you use the Art Basics gesso, it really needs 2 thin layers. Now when I apply it with the squeegee, I am barely grazing the surface each time, and it's pushing it down into the divots of the canvas, and that way it's going to give us the best level surface. The reason I did that is because I was still seeing a lot of the white dots. I don't know if you noticed, but as I was painting, I don't get crisp lines when my brush is going down into the divots. And this is where a regular acrylic painting differs from a paint by number. We're really trying to be careful when we get up against the line, and so when we have these little divots and our paint is going in and out of them, it gives us a rough outline. And so to avoid that, that is why that clear gesso is so nice to level out our surface. But I do have a lot of people who will ask me, do I need to gesso the canvases? Instead of you having to ask me and me go back and go, oh, I didn't test that. I wanted to do it for the video. And I wanted to show you with both of the types of gesso that I really like to use, which is the Art Basics matte and the Liquitex textured gesso. I didn't have to put 2 layers of paint when I got to this section because it filled beautifully with the 2 layers of clear gesso in the Art Basics. Then once I got over here to the Liquitex part, I did 1 layer of gesso and 1 layer of paint. I didn't have any issues with it going outside the outline, except for my own self being careless, which happens a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But you can see the difference and the cleanliness of it between gesso and no gesso. And my favorite line is, you do you, boo-boo. Well, everyone, I hope you have found this review to be very thorough and helpful. I will put a direct link to their website in the description below so that you can find it. You can also find their website and all of my favorite companies and a lot of other information about how to contact me and so on and so forth at melanieb.info. But I'll also put a link for that in the description below, as well as all the links for all the products that I have used in today's video. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me today. And I will see you back soon.